Hi, my name's Edward, and I'm going to be pursuing a career in consulting upon graduation. As an intern for Management Consulted, I would love it if you were able to fill out a quick survey linked in the show note description. This is going to help Strategy Simplified improve and become far more tailored to you, the individual, looking for a career in consulting. Thank you.
Hey Strategy Simplified, we are excited to share this recording of a live info session we recently hosted with Investor Group Services, also known as IGS. Headquartered in Boston, IGS provides proprietary, data-driven diligence and strategic insights for private equity investors and other business leaders seeking to make better investment and strategic decisions. In the session, you'll hear from Ben, Lori, and Chad, 3 vice presidents at IGS, to learn about the work the firm does, current opportunities, firm culture, and much more. Make sure to join our email list to be notified about future info session opportunities where you can join live and ask your questions directly to the firm. There's a link in the show notes. Finally, if your interest is piqued in IGS by listening to the episode, there's a link in the show notes to see open roles at the firm and to apply. All right, let's get started.
So they're a fantastic firm. I've really enjoyed getting to know more about them and the work that they do over the last year or two, and really excited to now turn it over to Ben, Chad, and Lori to talk to us more about Investor Group Services.
Great, really appreciate that. Thanks very much, Navon and Jay. Great. So let me start with a bit of an introduction to us and our firm, and we'll start with the team on the call today. So my name is Ben LaPres. I'm a vice president at IGS. I started in the firm really in 2017. I was an intern between my 2 years at Harvard Business School, and then I rejoined full-time when I got out of there in 2018. My background is actually in aerospace engineering, so my switch over to consulting was very much a career change post-MBA, which I'm sure there might be some questions about. And then I'll introduce my teammates, Lori and Chad.
Great. So my name is Lori. I joined IGS in 2016, the same day as Chad, actually. So we have that in common. Before IGS and before my MBA, I did investment banking for Citigroup. I was in a cross-sector team there. And before Citi, I was at college here in the US. And before college, I was in Romania, which is where I'm from.
Thanks, man, Lori. As Lori said, I've also been here since 2016, Chad, Benoit, and now a vice president, but I began as an associate right after college in 2016. Prior to that, in college, my background was really focused on quantitative and qualitative social sciences research, particularly related to healthcare and public healthcare. So consulting was a little bit of a new foray for me, though in some ways methodologically similar, but it's ended up being a good fit.
Great, thanks. And then just to talk a little bit more about our firm. So we're Investor Group Services, or IGS. We were founded in 1998, so we've been around for about 25 years now. And we specialize in consulting engagements predominantly for private equity investors, for the investment banks that they work with, and for the portfolio companies that they invest in. So everything kind of touches, the private investor life cycle. And we do a lot of different engagements to support that investor life cycle, right? So kind of a key use case that clients call us for is what they call commercial due diligence. So it's an evaluation of aspects of their investment thesis as it relates to the commercial markets that they're investing in and the specific assets they're acquiring, right? So they want to know about, how large is a market? What are the prevailing market dynamics that are going on? How well positioned is a target asset that we're thinking about investing in? What's going on competitively? Who does this company need to compete with? Once those investments are closed, we do a lot on the portfolio value creation side. So we want to help our investors and now their management teams at their portfolio companies, to grow and really increase that equity value. That's what the investors are after, right? So we want to help their portfolio companies grow and succeed in the markets that they get into, and do a lot there with, where could a company expand? Is a company's pricing correct? Is there some sort of emerging competitive dynamic that they need a little help navigating? And then at the end of an investment hold period, we'll usually get engaged too on the sell side. There we work a little bit more hand in hand with investment bankers that our investor clients may have hired to help them manage one of their exit processes if they're going to sell out from an equity investment that they've made and prepare an asset for sale. We do a lot of sell side support and analysis to do a preliminary sort of answering of the tough questions about a given asset, a given investment. If there's some market dynamics that an investor knows that the next buyer, the next investor is going to be interested in, is going to ask about, we can work with those investors to get those answered ahead of time, so that there's a good sort of understanding of what's going on, as an exit moves forward. Talking a little bit more about sort of the transaction related services we do relating to the initial investment and the exit from an investment. So there we call that, buy side and sell side diligence. Again, a lot of validating sort of the investment theses that our investors might have. We do a lot of primary research at IGS. We really regard that to be a very important part of the work we do. So there's a lot of direct interviews that we're conducting, with the customers of a target company, the customers, to get their feedback about how the performance of a given asset has panned out over the past couple of years, how the relationship is going. But we also want to talk, more broadly in the landscape. Are there distribution partner, channel partner relationships that we want to interview and understand the dynamics in the channel? Are there competitors that it makes sense for us to speak with so that we can understand, more broadly in an industry what's going on? And so we want to take all that sort of primary feedback and do a lot of the kind of standard secondary work, the crunching of data, the understanding of, different metrics, building of different market models, and kind of, put that together into a comprehensive set of findings for our investor clients to use as they're thinking about getting into and exiting from an investment. The key issues that we touch in those engagements really fall into kind of four big buckets. I've talked a little bit about the market dynamics piece of it. We're doing a lot of market sizing. So, those case interviews where you're being asked to size a market, it does have a real world component. We focus very much on that here at IGS. Understanding the market drivers, certainly understanding macro dynamics. So, right now we're coming out of COVID. There's a lot of inflation going on. There's likely going to be, an economic recession of some sort. How is that going to affect the market that you're investing into, right? We do a lot with the voice of the customer. We're interviewing, again, doing that primary research, getting the feedback directly from the stakeholders rather than, trying to find it another way. And then getting into what competitive dynamics are going on, how are these competitors selling to their end customers, what's going on in the channels, and then finally a lot of evaluating growth opportunities. We want to take a look at, not just what's important for this investment, but how could an asset grow moving forward. And we do a lot to dig into what those possibilities are and how well positioned a given investment would be to target some incremental opportunities. But then in between kind of that entrance and exit point, we want to help on the portfolio side as well. So we're doing a lot with, the management companies of the management teams of companies that private equity investors are bought into, to help them evaluate their business models and understand, where they might have some pain points and how can they grow going forward. So key questions about, where could some aspects of the service model or the product set be improved? Staying in touch with your customers, making sure they're all satisfied, making sure the relationships are going well. Understanding adjacencies that could be expanded into. Is there a new set of product or services or another new set of customers that the company is well positioned to serve? How actionable is that? What would a given company need to do to get into some of those markets? And then a lot in terms of, ongoing operational support, integration, how could you make additional add-on investments to a given portfolio investment? What would you need to do to really bring that into onto a platform and position it for future growth very well? What aspects of a portfolio company's performance are maybe lagging some of the industry best benchmarks? Where might there be a problem that we need to dig into a little more with that? How can we advise these management teams on how to solve those problems? And then digging into a little bit of, pricing optimization, cost reduction, positioning a company's offering for wherever they are in the macroeconomic cycle or the business cycle or the competitive landscape. So we want to help on kind of all those different angles as investors have, bought into these companies, look to help them have the right positioning to succeed and answer some of these hard questions. And then a little bit more about our team. So that was a lot about kind of the engagements we work on. So in IGS, we're based here in Boston, Massachusetts, right downtown in the Back Bay. There's about 60 of us on the consulting professional side. So we are, very much a boutique firm, but small and growing and eager to expand a lot more, frankly. In terms of our roles, the three of us sit on the management team, but in terms of the broader consulting team. So we have consultants, we call them, are kind of our MBA level hires, though several of our consultants here at IGS have come up through the associate roles and don't have MBAs. And the consultants are really the ones who are responsible for kind of the day-to-day delivery on these cases. We do kind of smaller targeted timelines of, call it 3 to 6 weeks. And the consultant is really the one who's running point on that work product, and acting as, we call it a little bit of like an engagement manager. We want them to kind of own that analysis and become the subject matter experts. And then at the undergrad level, we have the team of associates. So associates, again, are usually out of college, and they're the ones kind of supporting the on-the-ground work with managing our primary research efforts that I spoke a little bit about. So our associates will typically be in charge of a team of our direct market researchers who are making calls into different stakeholders and understanding key aspects of the thesis and questions that our clients have. And then they'll be digging also into a lot of the, the market modeling, the quantitative analysis, the, pulling metrics, understanding data, understanding what it all means so that we can kind of quantify some of these market trends and understand how large a market is, understand how fast it's growing. So smaller targeted teams, and we really look to, our consultants look to our associates. Everybody is really called upon here to, get their hands dirty and contribute and really get the answers for our clients. In terms of the team composition, I know there's some questions about that. Again, we have a smaller teams. So, a consultant running point and kind of 2 or 3 associates supporting a consultant. Our timeline is, call it 3 to 6 weeks. They might be a little bit longer if it's kind of more of a strategic portfolio engagement. And then all of our consulting professionals are kind of double staffed. So you're working on 2 things at once. By virtue of us being a smaller firm, you get a lot of great exposure to both our senior management team here at IGS and to our clients. There's not a lot of kind of bureaucracy around who gets to be in front of a client, who gets to present analysis. Again, we want everybody to get their hands dirty and really dig in and contribute to executing on these engagements. And then we as a firm do hundreds of engagements a year. So the great thing for our, junior consulting team members on that is, you're kind of constantly getting exposed to new industries, new markets. Again, you're working on 2 things at once. So you get a good breadth of experience, right? We like our junior team members to be generalists. Nobody really gets kind of pigeonholed as like an industrial person or a consumer person. Certainly Chad and Lori and I have a very broad set of experience. We've each worked on over 100 engagements at this point in IGS. We've kind of, done the whole breadth of what our clients are investing in. So that's a great thing for our small team here. And then in terms of our delivery model, we are not a travel first model. A lot of our client meetings are held virtually. So it's not kind of the Monday to Thursday travel thing that you see with some other consulting firms. We do a little bit of travel here and there, but it's certainly kind of a stay home in Boston model for us. And then finally, in terms of our industry expertise, again, it's very, very broad. These are just kind of 5 verticals to show as an example here. Do a lot in the business services realm, do a lot in the consumer realm. Healthcare is certainly a very hot button area for our clients, and we do a lot of engagements there. And then, technology platforms, industrials, these are kind of areas where we have hundreds of recent engagements. I mean, those totals on there in terms of how many recent engagements we've done are just in kind of the past 3.5 years. And then in terms of our client base, we are we work with a very broad cross-section of middle market private equity investors, some of the bigger funds, some of the smaller funds as well. But we have, over the years, worked with hundreds and hundreds of different investor shops, with a lot of different focus, a lot of different investment theses. And it just gives us kind of a continued, ability to bring this breadth of expertise and get a lot of reps and kind of, bring all that experience and so many engagements to bear for our clients. So that's a little bit about IGS. And I think, there'll be a lot of questions coming out of that, but.
Amazing. Ben, thank you so much. I learned things about IGS that I didn't know, and it's my job to follow the industry and keep track of, right, the 500 plus firms out there doing amazing work. So really appreciate that comprehensive yet pretty fast-paced review of who you all are and what you do. I've got a few follow-up questions, and since I'm running the call, I'm just going to skip to the front of the line and ask mine first.
We'll be right back after this quick message. Are you a PhD, postdoc, or MD interested in transitioning into management consulting? Apply to Link to LEK by March 12th, 2023. What is Link to LEK? Well, it's an opportunity for advanced degree students to get to know LEK and the type of strategy consulting work the firm does through a virtual 2-day program. During the program, you'll network with LEK consultants and participate in a simulated strategy case modeled after the work done by LEK's life sciences team. But the best part of the program, you will receive the opportunity to an early interview for a full-time role with the firm ahead of the general recruiting cycle. Again, the program is open to current PhD, postdoc, or MD students interested in life sciences strategy consulting, ideally with a target graduation in 2024. So again, apply by March 12th. Click the link in the show notes or visit lek.com today to submit your application.
Ben, first question for you, Chad and Lori. I'll let whoever wants to take this, take it. But you mentioned early on in your presentation, there are really 3 types of work that we do. You get your commercial due diligence, you get your portfolio value creation, then you get your sell side support. Can you give me some kind of percentage breakdown as far as, hey, you know what, like 50% of our engagements are CDD and 25% is sell side support and 25% is the rest? Like, do you have a sense of, like, if I was going to join IGS as a consultant, what type of work I would be doing? Would I be over-indexed in one type of engagement versus another?
I can start and team feel free to add. Historically our focus has been the buy side. So we, take a very impartial look at an investment thesis and at a target for an acquisition across the many different industries, like Ben described, with some sort of portfolio engagement and some sell side work as well. That being said, in recent years, we've started doing a lot more of the portfolio work, and we are actively moving and hiring more for those types of engagements. So we've, one of our most recent hires, one of our senior MDs, specifically is overseeing that portfolio work, and our goal is to grow that work substantially. And what that means for the new hires is definitely the opportunity to get exposure to several things. And because we're a relatively small team, we can offer that exposure quite flexibly, and we can allow people to try out commercial diligence and try out sell side work and try out some strategy work too, and see where they operate best, what they like best, and what fits their skill set and the things that they want to learn about.
Amazing. Chad or Ben, do you want to add on to that? No pressure if not.
No, I would say I would think about it like, even going forward, I'd assume for at least the next several years that probably 50% or more of your time is probably on that kind of core buy side CDD. But again, I think more opportunities for folks to focus on, other types of projects that they're potentially interested in going forward.
Amazing. It seems like
CDD being the focus is a good driver for other work later too. We've all been on CDD engagements where the management team will call us back, right, and need some portfolio help. So it's kind of a good base for us to be strong in, but, lots of expansion opportunity elsewhere as well.
Absolutely. I was going to say CDD is almost like the top of the funnel.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. Follow up to that, you also shared, Ben, like a snapshot of some industries that you all have strong partnerships in. And question in a similar vein along I know you don't have a specific industry focus, but are there certain industries that you feel like IGS has built up more of an expertise in over the years that you're over-indexed in? I know you mentioned healthcare specifically, you mentioned industrials, so were those kind of industries that I would be playing more in if I was a consultant, or was that really just truly a representative sample because you couldn't fit everything on a slide?
It's mostly the latter. I mean, so
Okay.
we are focused on kind of middle market, lower middle market investors. Now, by virtue of that, there are some industries that the middle market and lower middle market likes,
Sure.
right? They
Sure.
like business services and healthcare and stuff that scales well. So, there are a couple more engagements on kind of the business services, industrials, some of those engagements. We do see those a little bit more often. But again, these investors are looking for great investment opportunities, and that's not limited to a certain area. So, a lot of consumer work, a lot of industrial work, a lot of these niche technology companies. So it was kind of the 5 verticals that fit on slides well. But I know the 3 of us have all done an incredibly varied number of weird little businesses. I've done a business that sold used Ferraris. I've done kind of a luxury towel brand. I've done, a lot of kind of little stuff like that. So it certainly is never boring. Our clients will call us up with some new interesting thesis that they're thinking about, and they'll be like, "Oh, interesting. I don't know that anybody knows anything about that. Let's go get the answers."
Ben, you stole the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say, it sounds like it's not boring. Because every 3 to 6 weeks, it's a brand new business problem in a brand new industry.
Right. And what I say sometimes to our candidates is like, look, if you're in a case that you're really not feeling like you're passionate about, or you're just kind of not feeling it, like it's over in the next 3 to 4 weeks. So you just got to kind of stick it out, and then you'll be working on something new, which is great. We don't do kind of the 9-month engagements here where you're just kind of trying to slug it out for the long run.
I'll tell you what,
I was going to say, the flip side of that, I think, is like, as an individual, like, I think there is opportunities to, like, over time, as you spend more and more time at IGS, to kind of be the go-to or the point person for a particular industry, right? Like, as Ben said, like, these investors do kind of follow themes and trends. And so there's often projects that are related to each other. So I know, like, Lori and I, for example, have both done a lot of healthcare projects due to, personal interests and, some of the cases that we found most interesting over the years. And so now when, new healthcare engagements are coming in, like, folks will often look to us for those. So I guess you don't want to make it sound like it is, I think there's a way to find the balance between the generalist nature of the firm, and there's still opportunities to kind of go after and focus on areas that you are interested in.
Yeah, exactly. I think just building on what Chad is saying, like, we can basically accommodate that full spectrum of people who want to be true generalists and people who want to informally express preference for a sector or a couple of sectors. And there's benefit to that. And what I will say to the not boring portion is, even if you do a lot of work in the sector, like in the healthcare example, I mean, the ecosystem is so broad, and our focus on different engagements can be very different. So even within diligence, in one project, we'll be focusing on, can this target scale nationally in multiple locations, and where should it scale? What are the best states or metro areas to scale this to? In another project, we would focus on how strong are the relationships between this asset and its referral partners or other types of stakeholders. So the questions can vary a lot, even if you have a certain sector affinity.
I love that. It sounds like it's the best of both worlds. And for me, if I was a candidate examining IGS, the short engagement length would be a big feature for me. So I hope everybody caught that, because that would definitely be something I'd be interested in. Lori, just to follow up on that, so Ben mentioned, you know what, like a lot of the work that we do is for middle market and lower middle market private equity. For those folks on the call who aren't familiar with the world of private equity, can you just give us some definition around what middle market and lower middle market means?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so that's certainly our core. I mean, if I had to give a range of revenues of companies that we look at, it's very wide, and that's sort of sector dependent, right? So we look at, SaaS companies that might have revenue of 10 million or even slightly below. But we can also look at distribution companies that have revenue in the, tens or maybe hundreds of millions. So the definition of middle market, I guess, spans a lot of different things. But I will say that sometimes our clients are sector specialists, so they will be in that, particular niche. But that's sort of the gamut.
That's helpful. So I couldn't help but notice when Ben walked through all of your introductions, all three of you have been at the firm for, I think, 7 years now. And so that's a little bit rare for consulting firms, like that length of tenure. And so I'm just wondering if all three of you could just quickly talk to us about why you've stayed. I'm sure you've had exit opportunities and chances to leave.
I'm happy to jump in first with this one. I mean, I guess we've touched on some of these themes throughout. Like I like to think of it as potentially three different ideas that have kept me at IGS. Like one is the type of work. Like I think that these short-term projects, getting to look at a wide variety of industries, getting to, I think I'm just a generally curious person. So getting up to speed on an industry really quickly is something that, again, keeps things exciting, keeps me engaged at work. And so intellectually, it just, feels like a good fit there. Second, I guess I would say the people at IGS, and hopefully you don't have anyone that comes on here and says that their people are awful, but I think at IGS, we do have like a really strong culture of smart, nice, hardworking people in a really collaborative environment. And so, over the years, even as people who have, come and gone from IGS, I'd say like, close to 7 years, like there's no one at the firm currently or that has been at the firm that I haven't looked forward to being on a project team with. And I think that sort of culture just is genuinely not that common, at least based on, friends and family and other sectors. And so it's just been a really great environment. I think it's the type of place where folks will take time out of their day to help you, even if you're not on their project team. And because we're all living and working in Boston, like do genuinely kind of get to know each other pretty well. And then lastly, like as Ben started out the presentation, we're a smaller firm, but we're growing a lot. And I think that creates a lot of opportunities for folks to take on more responsibilities more quickly. And so it's been a nice kind of two-way street. As I've invested my time and energy into the firm, I feel like IGS has also invested in me. And so I started as an associate, and being able to kind of, take on new and different responsibilities as a senior associate consultant and now part of the management team. I feel like even though I've been here for 7 years, have had more like 4 or 5 different roles and have been able to, develop different skills along those lines throughout that time. So again, just has kept it engaging, and I don't necessarily see a ceiling to that just yet, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely echo pretty much all of Chad's points. Just that maybe just expanding a little bit on the skill set and the learning point, because I feel like that's kind of what keeps you going in a job. And there's sort of the element of people management as a consultant that is sort of, I mean, for me, that was sort of a new skill because I didn't get much exposure to it in banking. And you get that kind of right out of the gate as the consultant. And that, I think, is one of the most rewarding parts of the job, to feel like you're teaching people something. They generally enjoy working with you. You kind of assess where they are on their learning curve and try to sort of push them along that learning curve or expose them to something new that they'd be interested in. And so that's one of the things that I've found most rewarding, is just working with associates and feeling like they're getting something out of the work, and getting value out of the work. So So that's been great.
And did all that for me pretty much. I don't have too much incremental to that. It has continued to, I continue to learn, right? I continue to get new experiences that I don't have. I continue to meet and work with smart people. So it's just kind of professionally for me, continuing to check a lot of boxes, and it's kept me here over the years.
I love that. And I can verify through my limited experience, smart and nice people. And that combination is not always easy to find.
We'll be right back after this quick break. Are you looking to see if consulting is right for you without going through the rigorous recruiting process? Then check out Strategy Sprint, the 1-week virtual consulting project coming up May 22nd through the 26th. Not only does this program allow you to test drive the consulting experience to see if it's a good fit for you, but you also build strategy and analytics skills and add real-world consulting experience to your resume. In the program, you're staffed as a consultant in a team of 6, led by an MVP consultant, to solve a real-world strategy problem for an actual client. Not only does the experience look great on your resume, but our resume editing team will even help you incorporate the experience onto your resume. Registration for Strategy Sprint is open, and the price will increase $200 on March 1st. So make sure to apply and secure your spot before February 28th to lock in your seat at the lower rate. Again, the next Strategy Sprint program happens May 22nd through the 26th, 2023. Learn more and apply through the link in the show notes. Okay, let's get back to the show.
Chad, I had a quick follow-up for you. You mentioned, as you were talking about why you stayed, right, the opportunities for advancement, and that you feel like you had 4 or 5 different roles in the last 7 years. Does IGS have a defined promotion pathway? Like after 3 years as a consultant, I've got the opportunity to join the management team, for example. Is there anything like that exists? Or is it just dependent on my own individual performance?
Yeah, good question. I just kind of echo what Ben laid out at the beginning. Like, I think there is a defined pathway in terms of, when someone joins as an associate, like they're really kind of the master of this, the primary research process, and that's kind of their critical input to an IGS project. Moving on to the senior associate role, you're kind of the one that's focused on the quantitative modeling and kind of digging into the quantitative research and pre-existing research that's out there. Consultant, as everyone has said, is kind of more of the day-to-day engagement or project manager. We have a senior consultant role that really is, when that day-to-day consultant is starting to kind of develop and build upon their own client relationships as well. And then, the building further on that as part of the management team. So there is a defined pathway. I'd say we don't necessarily think about it in terms of kind of hard timelines. I think you can go to any of our LinkedIns or the LinkedIns of others at the firm and kind of get a general sense for it. What we're really looking for is kind of mastery of each of those particular skill sets at each level, because again, it is kind of a different role. And so as folks kind of master those skills, but then also show like eagerness and initiative to move on to the next thing and kind of continue to build new and different skills. There's opportunities for kind of formal and informal feedback that, that dictate those promotions. So the timeline isn't always the same for everyone, but there's that pathway, and generally I think again the firm is super collaborative and supportive, and hopefully we look to guide people along that pathway through both the formal and informal feedback.
Yeah, that's helpful. And Lori, I'm wondering if you could build on that and talk to us a little bit more about the mentorship and professional development opportunities that are available at IGS. Chad just mentioned formal and informal feedback. Are you able to give us more definition around what that looks like?
Yeah, for sure. So there's quite a lot of sort of both structured and non-structured, I guess, opportunities for that. So in terms of mentorship and training, so obviously we start with the formal training that kind of lays the baseline, and then we have periodic formal training after that for, whether it's a specific software tool or specific sector or specific type of analysis that we do. Aside from that, especially for new joiners, we have sort of a shadow system where you get staffed with someone who's at the same level for the first few cases. So you can kind of learn the ropes. You're comfortable asking these questions. And you also get allocated sort of a peer mentor, but you're also part of a mentorship group where you have people sort of from across levels. It's a small enough company that people feel free to ask questions either within or outside of that mentor group. You work with a certain team and you get along well with someone on a specific project, and you want to ask them for feedback real time, or you want to ask them for career advice later on. All of that happens basically all the time. So that sort of, and I think that part of that is the culture, because it's relatively smaller and more informal, and there isn't as much of a barrier between management and consultants and associates. But and you can have those discussions, and part of it is also the nature of the work. You get opportunity for pretty quick feedback cycles because you finish a case in a month or a month and a half, and so you'll get a formal review maybe every 3 or 4 months, and that will include maybe 5 or 6 cases. And so that will have a richness of feedback that you may not otherwise get from a lot of different people. And then obviously we have sort of, another formal review cycle every year or so, but there is sort of that every few months, let's recap all of your cases and kind of see what the picture looks like.
I love that. Ben, let's say I'm listening today and I'm like, you know what? This sounds amazing. Like, I love the work that you all do. The culture sounds great. I want to live in Boston, or I'm already based in Boston, but I'm not like currently an undergraduate or an MBA student. Are there opportunities available for me as a lateral hire?
We're always on the lookout for great talent and, great prospective team members. So the answer to that is yes. I mean, per the conversation, we've got a lot of growing to do, and we're always kind of on the lookout for that, right? So, people who are interested in that, I know we've shared a link here. There's a careers link on our website as well that has a little bit more information on both the associate and the consultant role, and information on how to get your resume and your cover letter in here. And then we also keep our LinkedIn pretty updated as well. So there's a couple places to check there, but to answer the question, yes, we are always kind of on the lookout for great prospective team members.
Amazing. And are you able to give us some inside info on what we can do to stand out in the recruiting process? Is there anything that you feel comfortable sharing?
So it's a pretty traditional sort of consulting interview process. We're doing behavioral fit interviews, and we're doing case interviews as well. I'll let Chad and Lori speak to the behavioral side of it, because I do a lot of the case interviewing. Casing is challenging. It's challenging for everybody. I do think there's some practice that you need to do with it. So, get your copy of Case in Point and read it, do cases with, your friends, and, make sure you've got some reps under your belt before you step into the interview with kind of any firm, not just IGS, right? But in that case interview, what I'm really looking for, given that we're a smaller team, and given that we ask a lot of our consultants to kind of, move the ball forward and answer tough questions for our clients, we're really looking for people that can drive that case forward, right? It's not just, can you take some numbers and do the math correctly, though that is a part of it. You're really looking for, where might I need to make an assumption? Where else might I be able to look for a better answer here? How can I kind of get more comfortable with whatever answer I'm coming out with? We're really looking for kind of that, thought leadership on the case side of things.
And I'd say that most of our, sorry, go ahead, Lori.
No, I was just going to add something to the case. I mean, I think like my suggestion would be to sort of use the practice to make you feel comfortable with the format and the types of questions and some of the tips and tricks. But what we'd really love in an ideal situation is to get the sense the person is thinking about the actual question in real time and answering in sort of a natural way, and thinking about the nuance of their answers rather than sort of applying a framework. So kind of build on that framework and tailor it in a way that you would do in a normal conversation, where you talk about something where you maybe give examples or you provide additional nuance. So kind of looking for that. Are you able to think really well on the spot? And are you able to be structured and organized?
And I would just say that most of the time when we're doing case interviews, they're based on real IGS projects. So if you go to our website, there's an experience tab. Not to say that those will be the cases, but one, you'll get a sense for the wide array of projects that we work on beyond what Ben said. But two, like, if you're thinking about like, oh, what would be the key issues in this industry? Like, you're probably ahead of the curve. Like, in addition to kind of the market sizing math, like we usually like to throw in some questions. Start asking folks a little bit more about like, oh, if this were a real IGS project, what would be some of the key points that you'd investigate? And so thinking about that beyond just the how am I going to do the math out to get to the market size, I think is really helpful and helps someone to stand out relative to the folks who, maybe they've done the prep, but they can't necessarily envision what this looks like as a real project.
All fantastic tips, not just for IGS, but I think just for casing in general as well. So thank you all. Chad and Lori and Ben, I might just quickly ask you if you could share your favorite memory from your time at IGS just very quickly as we transition over to the open portion of our Q&A time.
I guess I don't necessarily have one specific memory, but in the dinosaur ages before hybrid work, when I first started at IGS, I think like any consulting firm, like you're often working at least a little bit beyond kind of the typical 9 to 5. And so that often led to kind of, for whatever reason, like no one had a work from home setup back in 2016. Like that thought never occurred to us. So we'd often kind of be in the office working until we were kind of done for the day. And that meant that we would have kind of order in dinner together or go get dinner together and have sort of, again, we're all in the office, we're not traveling. So having those kind of family style dinners, there's one part of our office where that would always happen. And, it was just a nice respite from a busy day. And I think helped to solidify, friendships and relationships that I still have with IGSers who have maybe moved on to do, other cool things since then, but folks that I still, really value the time that we spent together at IGS.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to, because, favorite memory feels very retrospective and we're still looking forward to more. But I think along Chad's lines, people hang out Friday at 5 after work in the kitchen of the office. And that's just a nice testament to the fact that people enjoy spending time with each other and getting to know each other. And just kind of the friendship and the camaraderie.
Yeah, and then for me, it's just, again, the culture of support and everything. I remember a case that I did a little bit pre-COVID, very big investor, very demanding, just kind of got our butts kicked for a couple of weeks. And at the end of it, was really proud of the work product we delivered. But, me and my team, we were all just pretty exhausted. And, the vice president that we were working with at the time said, let's pack up at 6 today. I'm taking you guys for steak. So he took the whole team out to a steakhouse downtown here, and it was just a nice kind of exhale after a pretty demanding case. And just, it was really great that the kind of leader of our case team like that was able to kind of manage the idea that we were all a little burnt out after a couple of weeks. But it was a great experience that I always look to.
I love that. That's I think that's a testament, like Lori said, to the culture that you all have built. So thank you to Ben, Chad, and Lori for spending an hour with us. I know that that's a big commitment during such a busy time of year. So thank you for coming on and sharing more about IGS. Like Japheth and like Chad just mentioned, stay in touch with IGS. Reach out on LinkedIn. Go to the website, learn more, apply for an open role if you're a good fit. We really strongly recommend checking out what's available at IGS because they're a great firm that's doing amazing work.
Thank you for joining this info session with IGS. If you liked what you heard, connect with the firm on their website or LinkedIn channels. You'll find links in the show notes. In addition, please take a second to fill out a 30-second survey linked in the show notes as well. That will help us tailor the podcast, each episode, exactly to what you want to hear. All right, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you on another episode of Strategy Simplified shortly.